Okay, this is the Francesco Abbruzzino show. We're doing this live. I don't have any set times, and I don't even know if anybody's watching right now. Basically, I just put it on my one major page, and then we'll put it up for rebroadcast later. Essentially, this is the thought process. We'll have a show. I'm going to do my normal newscast, which will still go out there every day. With this show, we're going to focus on introducing some international news, national news, primarily Florida State, county, and of course the local issues out there. I put together a few pieces just for a trial run, and then we also are going to take live phone calls. On this one, it's going to be 941-483-6633. We've got a temporary line on there. The concept is I'm going to put in a Magic Jack line in here and just have people call that, which will work better and should funnel better. So let's get it started. One thing I will do is, this is probably the only time I will do this until I actually do get sponsors, but we'll roll over into the sponsor mode. This is Venice Print Center. They've been pretty good to me with sponsorships on my other programs, so I wanted to put a shout out to them, VenicePrintCenter.com at 941-496-9009. Randy and Lori, good people. Randy graduated from high school in Venice. And you can find these guys over in South Venice. They're next to that pet grooming place in Art Plaza. I can't remember the name of it. But that's basically it. Now, so that's all the concept of flow, and we can get it started out. I am basically going to give the storyline, and then hopefully we'll open it up for commentary from you guys. And then we can ask more questions. So the whole show is going to rely primarily on people calling in. I'm sure we'll give some people that call in just say to be Weisenheimers and say, hey, you're a jerk, and we'll get others that want to discuss and let their opinion be known on the show. Remember, it is live. I'm not editing it, so we'll all stay out there. It'll be out on the YouTube channel for as long as I have that account. So if you don't want something out there forever that you can't control and delete like on Facebook, don't say it. The first news that the intro. We are broadcasting worldwide with your host, Francesco Abbruzzino. I thought, let's go to national news, and it's something that I haven't seen too much on the major media, but I've seen it on the alternative, and that's the Fukushima radioactive wave that hits California. They've had a lot of problems out there at that nuclear reactor lately, and it's getting very little coverage. They have the cloud coming up. You just aren't seeing anything in the major media. There was a story that came out the other day about 98% of the, hold on one second, let me get that story up. 98% of the sea life on the floor is covered by dead sea creatures. And they're saying a lot of that is due to the Fukushima radiation effects. A lot of it's like starfish. Starfish feed constantly out there, and they're getting impacted by it. Well, basically, some amateur people went out and, let's see there. Oh, sorry, some technical issues. Okay, there we go. Some amateur people went out with Geiger counters, and they were up in towards Mavericks, North California, and they were measuring the radioactive waves. They came out, and the normal is like, I think 4 or something like that. Well, this thing was measuring between 30 and all the way up to 150. The person would go on the beach, and this is actually several people that did it. They would go on the beach, and it would start clicking at 40, and then it would get all the way up to 150 once they went over to the water, which is 500 times the normal levels of radiation that you should be taking in. They also did a story on a guy at Mavericks that basically did the same thing. And I was thinking, Mavericks is this huge surf spot out in California. They did the movie. What was that movie? I can't think of it. But it's a surf movie about surfing big waves, and it takes Chasing Maverick is it. And they're out there surfing, and since I'm a waterman and I'm always out there surfing, I'm wondering, wow, how could these guys be out in this water if you got 98% of the Pacific Ocean floor covered by dead sea creatures? You got people that are out there with Geiger counters that are ranging from 40 to 500, yet people are still out in that water. And then just think of the food, the sea life that you're eating out there. How many of those products are just contaminated with this radiation? But basically, so the YouTube video was out there. It had radiation of in this coastside beach town of 150 micro REM per hour. Now, the funny thing is, they went out to the health officials in that county, and the environmental person came out and said, well, yeah, those are high levels. We don't know where it's from, and we're not sure it's hazardous. Okay. The officials dismissed the possibility that the reading could be linked to Fukushima radiation, which has been released, even though forecast experts said it will be here by sometime in summertime. The EPA is now investigating it, and if you go to the website, which I'll give you here on the page, it's let me see. It's epa.gov/radiation/understand/health_effects.html. Basically, go to the EPA and research radiation, and they'll tell you that the levels and the health effect that they have on you. If your exposure is, what's this? Okay, if you have an exposure of 5 to 10, it changes your blood chemistry. If it goes, technical issues again. 90 REM can give you diarrhea, 100 hemorrhaging, 400 possible death. He was reading up to 150 right there at the ocean water. 75 hair loss after 2 weeks. 50 nausea. So as you can see, there's harmful impacts at 50, 55, 70, 75, 90, 100. Oh wait, up. Now this guy was reading 150. I wish I had the YouTube page right now, but if you go to Infowars.com, it's on there. A lot of people say, oh, not that Alex Jones freak. He can be a little freaky about stuff, but on this stuff, a lot of this information he pulls, and they show a video, and it's the actual Geiger counter, and it has the actual ratings on there, and it's pretty interesting. Drudge Report picked it up, and some other individuals did. Now, the funny thing is, the county says, well, yeah, okay, sure. We don't know if it's from Fukushima, even though all these experts are saying that. Well, there's actually some DNA, they call it a DNA test, or some kind of testing where you can actually see where it's coming from. Although I think it's safe to assume it's all coming, suddenly it's here, it's right around the forecast time of arriving here. 101 equals 2, so does Fukushima radiation appearing here. Now, the environmental person in the county said, well, okay, sure, we admit that there's high radiation, very high, but we're not sure it's harmful to individuals. And, I'm thinking, how can this guy make that comment? You just go to the EPA site and you can see that those levels are harmful to individuals. It's right there on their site. Pretty plain and simple. So, what say you on that one? That's something I've been reading on a lot today, primarily because the videos just came out. Next is on JP Morgan Chase. They're to pay $2 billion to avoid a Madoff investigation. What ties does JP Morgan Chase have with Madoff? Well, that was the bank used by Bernard Madoff. He masterminded the biggest fraud in record, and they've agreed to pay up to $2 billion to U.S. authorities to avoid any litigation. Why? Because of their involvement in there. Because it would cost more. Some people are saying, it's only $2 billion. $2 billion is a lot of money. And how much more would they have to pay? And how much would it cost them if the residents, the citizens, the investors into their bank basically realized how deep they were into the Madoff crisis? I mean, for them to skate out at $2 billion, which is a lot of money, tells me they had to have some kind of involvement there. The bank's civil and criminal settlement would also involve a deferred prosecution agreement. They've been accused of ignoring warning signs that Madoff business was a fraud, often to win more fees and commissions from services they provided. Even Madoff came on and separately told authorities, hey, JP Morgan, he had tried the OCC from getting, they tried to stop the OCC from getting information on the relationship that they had with Madoff, implicating them in there. So, obviously, if I was working with JP, I'd probably do the same thing, because I would realize that it's going to cost us more than $2 billion down the road, with the negative perception that's going to be given out there once people find out how involved they were in there. But it's not unusual in the banking industry. All right, the next one. The Pope calls for a fresh church approach to children of gay parents. I love this Pope. I think he's great. I've been to the Vatican many times. I've been there when they've anointed saints. I've never seen the new Pope. I've seen the others. I wasn't a huge fan of the last pope that retired. However, I think Papa, as they say in Italian, or Francis, is a great guy. I love how he's a man of the people, how he gets out and he'll walk out. And I remember the first thing I saw when he was first anointed the pope, and he came out, and they drive that vehicle around the square, and I've been there before filming him, like within 3 feet of him. And he took this kid that had a disability and was holding him and praised him and everything. And I just thought, what a great guy. He doesn't seem to be a materialistic guy that some popes have been into their gold rings and all that stuff, and he just seems to be more of a man of the people. Basically, Pope Francis came on and has called for the rethinking of how the Catholic Church deals with children of gay couples and divorced parents, which I think is great. Another awesome move by him. The number of children in schools whose parents have separated is very high, he said, adding that the family makeups were changing and the church needed to recognize this and move forward. Through the church has often had some conflict with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community, but many of them are more accepting of this pope. And for some of it, I think it's Salvation Army. They do a ton of good in the community, and I think the good they do outweighs this one commentary that a captain, or I think it was a captain, made, and it wasn't a local one, it was more of a national level, stating that all gays and lesbians should be killed. Obviously, a ridiculous statement. He should have never made it. However, a lot of times when I post stuff that they're doing for the community on there, you always get someone come back on and say how they're against gays, lesbians, and all that stuff. In my mind, they're following the Christian approach, which is, hey, we're not really going to go out there and legitimize gay relationships, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. I think the good they do outweighs that, and it's expected since they're a Christian organization. All right, so much for that. All right, next, Florida state news. The courts were asked to force Scott to pick a lieutenant governor. This has been going on for nearly 9 months. He sat there and just vacillated back and forth. You've seen various names thrown out there, but he hasn't picked anybody. I've often wondered why. I think at one point they said Holder might be a front runner. Well, Holder was a ridiculous front runner. He's the carpetbagger that moved here because there was an opening for a state congressional seat. Ran for it. Lives up in the Oaks, and he represents Northport, Venice, all the way up to Osprey, but he really doesn't represent us. He's a guy that's out for self-interest and just political gains. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him run for Dieter's seat. Now, he was someone that the governor was looking at, and I guess he's since been taken off the list, and so has Dieter. I often wonder, they want the governor to appoint someone within 30 days. In her lawsuit, Barbara Devane contends that Scott is breaking a state law that requires him to appoint a lieutenant governor. My question is, which law is he breaking? Or is Barbara just out there stating that? I've yet to see a law stating that he has to select a lieutenant governor by X amount of time. I do feel that he's taken a long time, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if the selection process, he wants to make sure it's perfect. That is a little concerning. I think he's taken way too long for a position. Basically, to me, it's almost like a ceremonial position. I looked it up, and basically, the lieutenant governor is currently the second ranking member of the executive branch of the government of Florida. The lieutenant governor succeeds the office of the governor in the office when the office becomes vacant. She may also serve as acting governor if the governor is incapacitated. So basically, it's a ceremonial position. And I don't know what the big deal is with Scott and why he would take this political hit on it. When I go over this stuff, keep in mind that I am neither a Democrat or a Republican. I probably lean more to the right. In my eyes, I have deep concerns about both the Republicans and the Democrats. Okay, that's the state news. No calls yet. Probably because I only put it out to the 100 people. Alright, and I gave him a short amount of time. The next one is the county news. Sarasota is considering settling a lawsuit involving a police accident. This one's a weird one for me. Alright, so the Sarasota Police Department, they had a guy. It was more than 3 years ago, and it was involved in a car accident. Basically, Drew Brown, then 27, dropped his cell phone down. He took his eyes off the road to pick it up, and he rear-ended a Camry, which was being driven by Schwenk. Oh, I'm sorry. Schwenk Drew Brown. Got to get this stuff right. Now, Schwenk is the officer, and he admitted fault in the accident. He said, look, I was wrong. You know, I was totally wrong in this place. Now, Brown has alleged that she's had about $41,000 in medical bills. And I can tell you, I'm a medical consultant. $41,000 is not a lot. It's not a lot at all. If someone's really hurt, I mean, soft tissue could be $30,000. Well, maybe not $30,000, $20,000. But $41,000 does not surprise me. This city has fought this issue. Why is beyond me. You got the officer admitting to it. You have a person in serious injury, and you would think settle it, get it out of court. Well, they fought it until it went to deposition, and the city's lawyer said, "Wow, this person Brown, she's pretty credible, and people are going to believe her, and she's pretty detailed, that she presents well, and she's got that pain and suffering." So after all these years of fighting it, they've went ahead, and the officer admitting fault, they went ahead and settled for $48,000, which is not a lot. You got $41,000 in bills, so you're going to pay those off. Now, hopefully, the attorney is going to contact the clinics and ask them to reconsider a reduction request. Generally, you could see a reduction request of about 60%. It wouldn't surprise me if they're working with the attorneys. 60-70% would not surprise me. So that $41,000 she'll probably pay like $15,000, let's think on that. So that means, you know, she's got a little bit more, 15, she's got 28, 20, about $33,000. All right, a third of that's going to the attorney, and then she's going to have the rest of her money, which is good to cover medical. Well, a lot of people say, well, then she's got health insurance kicking. Nah, getting health insurance to pay on an auto claim is a bear. They all say they will. When you call, they say they will. But trust me, it's difficult, and they do not want to do it. I think this lady should have settled for a lot more with the city. Unfortunately, $48,000, I don't think is going to cut it. The other question is, are there new rules in place to cover whatever she was taken? This guy is still on the job. I don't know what happened to him. I'm sure they took punitive actions against him. But what actions are in place to make sure this doesn't happen again? All right, local news. Environmental damage claimed at Warm Mineral Springs suit. Friends of Warm Mineral Springs, it's a nonprofit citizen group, is alleging that in their lawsuit that archaeological and other activities have caused environmental damage to Warm Mineral Springs. They're alleging that the off-site sand trucked to the tourist attraction and put in the swimming area years ago was done without permits, which are required by the Federal Cleaning Act. Sarasota County did its own testing in 2012 and found no problems. The lawsuit claims that shifting of sand, plastic sheets left by underwater archaeological explorations, as well as sunken 55-gallon drums, are interfering with the spring's natural flow. They claim that Northport and Sarasota County, which bought the springs in December for $5.5 million, should be held responsible for restoring it. This is the latest issue in a multitude of issues. Recently, as we know, they closed it down because they had a vendor that was going to take on the springs. The vendor went in there and found issues, sort of like this issue. And they said, hey, look, we got to rework this contract. There's too many issues in here, and we can't go with this contract. So the city and the county got mad, and they said, well, forget you then. Get out of here. So now we're stuck with Warm Mineral Springs, a $5.5 million investment, just sitting there, idle. Now you have about 30 protesters. At some points it was up to 100. Out there, they're wearing the red shirts. They go to the council meetings and protest out in front saying, hey, open it back up. So the city caved and said, okay, we're going to open it back up temporarily if the county agrees, and then, until we find a solution, a long-term solution. So the county came in and said, yeah, we agree, we'll do this. So they're looking to open it up temporarily whenever they can find a process or a way to go about doing that, and then work on a long-term solution. You got conflicting forces here. If you look at Sarasota County, the commission, Barbetto, said, hey, until Northport Commission is totally, that city totally reelects all new people, we're not going anywhere with this. The Springs is doomed. So you got rhetoric like that from Barbetto. You got this lawsuit now from these people saying that no permit was filed, and you got all this money. This is starting to turn into a cesspool, a money pit for the county and the city of Northport. I, as a Sarasota County resident, don't want to keep dumping all this money into there. And so, what does the county and city of Northport have to do with this property? Should they get rid of it? Should they stay on, fight this lawsuit, which is going to cost a ton of money? They're going to, who knows, eventually probably they got to go out and fix this stuff. I'm sure this group, this non-profit citizens group, has their ducks in a row, and they're pretty confident that they researched it and found that all this stuff is true, and that's why they're bringing the suit. The next thing is, what does county not making money now, which is why it's closed. Will they make money if they open it back up? My understanding was that it was a loser for them, and they weren't really making any money. And the other thing is that an agreement. Okay, basically, like I said, this is the initial show, folks. He should just sold off. I think they should just probably look and see if they can even sell it off and move on. I have no idea why a city and county would get together in a partnership to buy this piece of property. It's beyond me, and I don't recall the specifics of it back then, but I think it's just been one bad move that us as residents of the county are paying, and the city of Northport. How about those residents? They're getting hit with it from the city and the county. So, all right, growth plans. I'm putting this on there because we just had that 141 acre parcel that went up to petition by, I think it was Parsons, I think it is, to build houses out by border. A lot of people upset about it, rightfully so. They bought these houses so they're out by themselves, enjoying the countryside, lots of land, no urban sprawl, etc. And it sort of goes along with the city. I think the city agreed to the petition, said okay. And this goes along with that whole growth concept. You got a couple council members and the mayor that are pushing the growth. And I shared a story with my daughter. We were at Daiquiri Deck, and I was telling them that Venice Avenue, back when I was a kid, back in 80, I moved here in 82, so we used to skate up and down Venice Avenue, and there was nobody. I mean, after 6 o'clock, it was dead. We used to skate the post office and just all over the place on our boards. Now you go down there, and I went down there, it was like a Wednesday, and it was packed, people everywhere. I drove down through during the week, and just traffic everywhere, congestion everywhere, almost too much congestion, too much that the roads can handle. We just don't have the infrastructure. Okay, now you got the mayor. He wants to build parking garages, which is great. You go out and build a parking garage. Well, how are you going to accommodate we don't have the infrastructure to handle the cars that are coming in now, so why would you build a parking garage? Regardless, they paid $7,000 to look at a piece of property, and the whole council shot it down. And then they said, well, we wish we would have known it was going to cost that much. So basically, the garage idea concept went to the wayside. With Seaboard, Hawk wants to create a redevelopment agency which will use future property taxes collected from Seaboard to relocate the industries, possibly to areas out by Interstate 75. What do they have to do? All the cost to relocate them, all the cost to purchase the new property out by 75 to locate them out there. Venice says, well, we'll freeze the amount of property tax it receives from Seaboard as property values their increase, and they go on to some other garbage. Basically, look, as a resident, I think it'd be awesome to have a river walk like Bradenton. But as a resident, I don't want to pay to the amount of money that I can't even imagine how much it's going to cost to buy all those businesses out, buy all that property out, move them all out to 75, then come in and build it up so that it looks like Seaboard down in Bradenton. Now, assuming that many of the businesses move there, so you probably get some investors that says, okay, we'll buy the land with this concept, which the city's probably hoping for. But still, the other issue is congestion. We don't even have the infrastructure to handle the traffic now. How are we going to handle it then? And I don't know if property taxes from that little area will cover the amount of cost it's going to cost to move the businesses and do all this stuff. How will the businesses be impacted if they move them? Sam Lubis, he is a machine manufacturer in Venice for about 20 years. His worry is that the future of his business, if the area where it's located undergoes the type of sweeping redevelopment being talked about by the city hall. Right now, Seaboard is an economic engine that has supported the city's residents and other businesses since the town first started up under the John Nolan plan 90 years ago. Lubis, like myself, concedes it's a great idea. His vision is a good use of the property, but at what cost? And is the city ready for this growth? I think a city whose primary demographic is, 67 and older, I can't see them wanting to ever walk there. They're coming here for a peaceful life where they don't have all that urban sprawl. They can relax and enjoy a lot of the amenities that Venice has now. I think we're at a good point now, whereas I think any further growth, I don't know if that's the Venice I look for. What say you? All right, Lamar County Elementary, tomorrow, school board's meeting. Means, I think 7 o'clock. I got it on the Venice Scoop and the Northport Scoop. This is basically the school that Charles Hummer put out a video about their drywall. I went ahead and put it on the Venice Scoop, and it got a lot of attention of the media and everybody else out there. And basically, I saw the test results, and they came back with 2 of the 3 gases testing positive in the drywall. The school board, after a bunch of pressure and the press started covering it, said they held a meeting. They never even mentioned that November test results from that consultant, which they paid, I think, and don't quote me, about $250,000 to have them come in and research. Well, basically, they went in, they had a controlled meeting up at the landings at 3 o'clock when nobody can make it up there. So then they said, okay, we'll do a conference call with Northport, and you guys can call in. A lot of parents didn't get that number, and it was, again, controlled. Parents could, as you know, if the school board's controlling who's calling in and it's a call into their conference call, it's all about controlling the situation. They still did not reveal the November results. Forget the fact that I put them out here all over the place. I sent them to all the major media. It was out there. Well, now they're saying, Scott Ferguson with the school board saying, well, Charles Hummer is misconstruing the numbers. And Charles wrote a reply on that, which was, he said, look, how am I misconstruing the numbers? This is what the Consumer Product Safety Commission says is acceptable. The Housing and Urban Development says is acceptable guidelines on drywall, and it's 0. Anything over 0 is not acceptable. And he gave this whole breakdown. He's very technical, and he broke it all down on there. Now, keep in mind, Charles Hummer isn't in it for profit. He's not making any money. He's actually losing money. He's spending his own money on this. He's doing it because he's a victim of the American drywall situation, and he wants to make sure other individuals are not. The problem still remains, the school board's ignored those results. B, the school board hasn't taken action. They've known about the results since back in November. You have teachers that have told news media outlets that, I remember one teacher, she said she substituted at another school that morning. Felt great. Came back that afternoon to Lamarck Elementary. I started tearing up, getting watery, sinuses acting up, and everything. Indications of drywall issues. Yet, stuff like this is occurring on an ongoing basis, yet the school's done nothing. I think, if anything, they should accommodate the parents that wanted to move their kids. I think they should have put a word out to all the parents as soon as they found out there was an issue to make sure they're all within the loop. I just think they should have been more active. I think the superintendent dropped the ball on it, just like she did on another thing when I brought up the busing issue. She tends not to get back to people and respond to them. I don't know if she thinks she's a higher authority and she doesn't need to or what, but now these parents and staff and many people are all being represented by an attorney, and it's just going to cost us as a county even more money. In consultants, because they hired another consulting firm after the November one. They hired another one. Oh my gosh! Oh wait, what do they say? Oh boy! And so now they got more consultants. They're probably going to have some lawyer fees. They're going to get some lawsuits probably with this new attorney that's stepping in. It's not a pretty picture. So why Lamar Canyon Venture, the superintendent's doing this is beyond me. All right, my last one that we'll discuss tonight, and still no phone calls. Northport budget, $200,000 for the project, and they're ready to go. What am I talking about? I'm talking about bike trails. The city of Venice and Mayor Hollick want to make the city of Venice a gold standard bike community. Right now, I think we're bronze or something like that. And it's taking a lot of money. We put out tons of money on Legacy Trail. And I think I put out a communication where finishing up Legacy Trail, the last 8 miles, will cost an extraordinary amount of money just to get someone to come in and analyze it. And then the cost per mile was outrageous. And I can't remember the specifics. But when I put it out there, people were amazed that we were putting out that much money. This is along the same lines. This individual wrote the council, and let me see what his name is. Steve Christian, he's a bicycle advocate, and he says, hey, look, Northport has budgeted $200,000 for this project to make their bike lanes more friendly. They basically they want to make it more bike friendly, pedestrian friendly, and with the when you got bike lanes, they wanted a brighter color. He went through a whole thing of stuff, and there's actually, if you want more information, you can go to www.bikevenice.florida.com. On there, he says, look, basically, we got $200,000 from the city of Northport. We just need the county's buy-in and commitment, financial commitment, so I'm assuming the county's going to match it, and we can move forward. And he wants the city of Venice basically to do the same stuff to get to that gold level. Put out all this money, commit all this money, so that we can be a gold level bike city. To me, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. I'm a biker. I like biking, sure. But I think at one point you just got to say, hey, enough is enough. You got your little Legacy Bridge for bike trails. You got the Legacy Trail. We're pretty bike friendly around here. I think we are. I think to maintain what we have is good. If we can get to a goal by doing a couple little extra things, fine. As far as I know, that's not being bike friendly isn't bringing in that much more revenue. It's just accommodating the residents that are in here. Rev 3 didn't come here because we're bike friendly. They came here because of the location and because we were accommodating them in their schedules. So those are my thoughts on that, spending that money. Okay, and that's going to basically bring the end of the show. So you get the basic concept here. We'll cover a little international, a little national, and then I try to focus more on Florida county and stuff. I'm going to try to research it with a little bit more facts than what I have on this. I was just trying to put it all together, and hopefully this phone will ring. Not sure why it's not ringing. Hopefully you guys can hear me well, and you're enjoying this new concept or format. Hopefully I have some viewers out there right now. If not, if you're catching the pre-recording of this, we're going to be doing this basically live at 6. It'll be an hour to 3 hours long, where we cover national media news. You can call in and talk about stuff, and I'll even have it so we can Facebook maybe on that stuff too. So I'm looking at different options, and this is the trial run of it. Okay, so for Francesco Abbruzzino, this is the Francesco Show, and until the next time, we'll see you later. Wait, I haven't gone yet, have I? Okay, now we'll see you later. Have a good night, everybody.